And how are we getting on? How you getting on, Neil? Thanks for joining me.
Hello there. No, welcome. Thanks very much for asking me on.
Of course.
Cheers.
And thank you so much for dealing with all the hassle. It took a while to get here. We messed up the call the first time, and
That's all
then
right.
a couple
and,
emails in between. We got it
no
in the end.
worries. I'm quite familiar with technical snafus. It's all good.
Well, fair play to you.
Yeah.
So obviously, you're in a massive game fairly recently. People might have heard of it. If they didn't, fair play to them living under a rock. Resident Evil 8 Village,
Yeah. Yeah, man. It's been a
Heisenberg.
big one. Yeah, yeah, it's a really lovely job to have done. I mean, I'm very honored to have Capcom ask me back for a second character in one of the games in the same franchise. So that in itself was a really sweet, lovely thing to be able to say and do, which was cool. And yeah, I don't think we were all prepared for how big Villager was going to be. Actually, we knew it was going to be quite good. We just didn't think it would be like fucking enormous. So it's like become this huge juggernaut game, and it's still. I mean, obviously, the life cycle of a early release doesn't really last that long, typically in most games. And maybe if you're lucky, you get like a month or so of like riding that sort of crest of the release, and people are talking about it. But this has been going on for like the whole year, which is amazing. So, and it's been interesting as an actor to be a part. I've been a part of some very big franchises before, so I'm very lucky in that sense in games. And a lot of the work I've done over the years is sort of like, it's always sort of layered on top of each other or crisscrossing and whatnot. But this thing was, this was definitely bigger than I thought it was going to be. And in terms of the response and people's enjoyment of it. So it was really nice to be just a small part of that big kind of like machine, that mayhem machine that we call Village. And the fact that people like my character, or maybe not even like, just like I'm interested in, were entertained by him, is of course like, the best thing in the world to hear as an actor. It's a bonus really on top of the job.
Yeah, I've never seen quite the same kind of reaction for fans to the actors afterwards. Only the other day we had Becca Pruitt on,
Oh yeah,
and
Becca's lovely.
she put like one post up there, and like the amount of people who came flooding in, like when we normally do an episode and try get it out there afterwards, nothing really comes of it from the guest side, because you follow someone, you think they're interesting, you're not going to check out something else they did. But
Sure.
fuck me, dude, they went ham. They went ham.
Yeah,
So
Becca's
fair
a
play to
sweetheart,
them.
man. But they did a great job, Becca, Nicole. And I mean, it was a really, amazing, it was a really amazing cast, and to say that across the board, I mean, the whole of Resident Evil cast was lovely, delightful to have worked with, and I think that's the thing, that when you're lucky enough to be able to be a part of something like that and to work with such lovely, amazing people, that it really does make life wonderful for an actor, because it's hard to get a gig. I mean, I'm pretty lucky on the whole. I've been working a lot in games. Thank you to everybody that ever hires me. But there's always like a bonus to work with such amazing actors. I mean, especially like people like Jeanette and Nicole Tompkins and Becca. They were just like really lovely, fun. I mean, Jeanette was a beautiful human being, and I only met her for like one day, and she left a huge impression on me. And it was very sad to hear of her passing, and all of us were touched by her. When we met her, we were all taken by her. Some of us, obviously, people got to know her a lot better. But she was like a really beautiful human being, and there were some really cool people on this gig, and it was just a really fun experience. I didn't have any difficult days on this thing. I very rarely have difficult days in work anyway, to be perfectly honest, because I really love the playtime of it. But this was a really fun from start to finish adventure. Do you know what I mean? I mean, Maggie is amazing. She and I became really good friends during the shoot. I got to know everybody really, really well, and yeah, Ethan Winters.
Dude, I love the voice. I couldn't place the accent.
The accent's a mishmash of creatures, to be perfectly honest. So, I mean, for me, the original, basically the idea, So I should probably say, actually, by the way, huge props to Todd Soley, because Todd like carried the whole fucking thing, and he was in every single scene, and I tackled him to the ground so many fucking times and dragged him all over the place, and he took it like a champ. So it's a huge props to him before we go anywhere else. And also to Steve Kneebly, the director, who's amazing, whom I've worked with many times before. He's an old, we're an old collaboration partners together, as is Nicole as well. Yeah, just amazing actors across the board. But yeah, anyway, the accent. So the accent, originally the remit was for Transatlantic, which I don't know if you know what Transatlantic is, but it's very like old-fashioned Hollywood, like 30s, 40s, 50s, somewhere between taking American, taking British, English specifically, sorry, and then meeting them somewhere in the middle of the Atlantic. That's Transatlantic, right? It's the metaphor. And it's kind of like a very, very so, you know, somebody may talk like that. It's sort of American, but also kind of British. It's clipness. Everything's at the front, which is unusual for American. Everything's usually at the back. So we started with that, and then I like to tinker, and I like to obviously create character. So originally all I had was Lord Heisenberg and a little bit of his background, but not much, and his situation, and Transatlantic. I didn't know what he looked like. I didn't know what he looked like at all. So I went with sort of my gut, which was, well, Transatlantic, who are the kind of, let's look at actors that have very famous Transatlantic accents. And I sort of settled on Cary Grant. And with that, I kind of liked the casualness, the comfortable. He's so comfortable. If you ever watch Cary Grant and, like, I don't know, North by Northwest or something, he's so goddamn comfortable in front of the camera that every time he moves, it's like he's in a lounge. It's like every time he steps into a room, he owns that room, or he's like, that's where he sleeps or something like that. It's really, he's just incredibly like casual and comfortable and has this ease about him that's really engaging. Obviously, it's why people loved him. And then from there, I also liked, of people of that ilk and era, Jimmy Stewart. Jimmy Stewart's a really fascinating actor because he was very ahead of his time in terms of realism and naturalism. So I kind of like I don't know why the inspiration took me just to sort of merge the two together. So you kind of got a little bit of that, right? You know, it's sort of all transatlantic, but a little bit of Jimmy Stewart, like that. And then for just
it's very unique.
It's a little weird, yeah. But then on top of that, I then thought, well, I have to sort of delve into the mania of him, the sort of violent, you know, sort of powerful, on edge, very dangerous, very elusive, and not entirely sure, can you trust him? Can you not trust him? So then I decided, well, of all the actors I really respect and like, I really dig Nicolas Cage. I think he's batshit crazy. I love it. And I just thought, wouldn't it be fun to experiment with that? So I just sort of jammed Nick Cage in there for the mania of him, and it kind of worked. You know, so you get this kind of thing when he sort of drops down into all these to face off, you know, it's shit like that, right? So and then I sort of created this sort of weird hybrid accent, which also informed me a lot about the character, because the accent, I didn't choose these accents arbitrarily, and the impulses that came out from sort of making some decisions were following like who the character I saw was, because obviously the way that you talk informs your history, informs your genealogy to some degree in terms of your location and nationality and culture. Well, not even nationality, but culture specifically, like which part of the world do you identify with, right? And your accent tends to gravitate towards that. So people sometimes lose their accents because maybe they don't really identify with that place, they identify with this place, and so on and so forth. I lost my original native accent, you know, some years ago, a very long time ago, actually, whereas my twin brother still has a very strong accent from our hometown. And that's, you know, so these things matter. So you can't be arbitrary and just do shit for kicks. You can get a kick out of it, but you shouldn't just make them arbitrary. So yeah, this accent sort of came out, and the Japanese executives from Capcom, the wonderful people there, and Steve, they kind of dug it. So that was the way it was. And the gravelly thing came out of me having a cold one day, and it kind of got a little like this. So, and they liked that too. So I was like, okay, so maybe we can drop into that a little bit when he's getting a little, let's go get Rose. We can use her to grind Miranda into paste. Like when he gets super excited and a little like, you know, whoa, let's go. So that's sort of how the accent came about, really. And I'm very lucky that I do have a well-trained, good, very relatively versatile voice that can sort of sustain that without it sounding, I hope, too forced.
It sounded very natural. It sounded like an accent from a place you'd never heard of.
Yeah, and that's the
It
point.
like
You're not supposed to be able to know where the fuck he's from.
yeah, it's
You
like
know,
there's one guy in the Alps somewhere. He's
that
never left
shit
the village,
crazy.
but
He's
he's
been there
he's watched
60 years.
American television.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or he's American, has been traveling for 70 or 80 years, which is sort of the truth of the thing is.
There you go.
So yeah, it was sort of like, let's make it a bit weird, you know.
So you were saying you're really close with the cast.
Yeah.
Do you normally have that kind of relationship when you do a game or when you do a project?
Oh, almost always. I'm very, very lucky that I've got these little like families and tribes of actors that I've worked with, and directors, of course, as well. And there's little pockets and groups of us that they sort of flit like a social butterfly between. Planet of the Apes, for instance, we had a very, very close bond with everybody on that. And there was an ape tribe and a human tribe. And I got to know all of them because I was playing both, and lots of things in between. So yeah, on the whole, I'm very lucky. I get to work with some amazing actors. And there's very few egos on this side of the business. In fact, there's almost none, I would say, that in terms of problematic people or difficult people that don't put the work first, but you know, their own shit gets in the way. There's not that many people I've come across that I would say who didn't really enjoy working with that person, which is something to be said in any career. I think that's pretty amazing. So yeah, I do make some very good close friends that I love working with again and again. Sometimes, you know, Nicole and I can't talk about some things, but you know, this is not our first rodeo. And it may not be our last. We may have some shit. So yeah. So I get very lucky. I'm very lucky in that respect that I get good projects. I get asked to play great characters. I get to work with fantastic people. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, in fairness, I've talked to just about all of the cast so far from Resident 8. These are fucking sound. These are very nice people.
Yeah,
These are lovely.
Yeah, they're pretty cool.
I feel a bit bad for Aaron LaPlante because he had to do all his stuff kind of alone, so it wasn't witches.
Yeah, but we've got to know Aaron. Aaron was, of course, a really close friend with Jeanette, and I think he obviously took that harder than anybody with her death. And we got to know Aaron. Actually, I got to know sort of Aaron through that and through the signings we were doing, and I never met him, but I met him online through the stuff we were doing together as a collective. But even still, like, Aaron's a part of it, and I think that's the thing that, you know, these projects are wonderful because they're hugely collaborative. You can have like 5 actors play one character in certain circumstances. That can be done in performance capture and voice work and stunts and all that stuff coming together. So the mindset is very much like, you know, there are no small roles, because you could be doing 20 small roles and work longer than anybody on a game. Even, you know, whereas the lead may only do a couple of days and that might be them done, you know. So no, there is a great equalizer also with the suit as well, the costume, the mocap suit that we wear. It does tend to equalize everybody in a way. So there's this mindset that everybody's working collaboratively together, and you're also pitching in really in that sense. You know, you're all kind of there propping up each other and propping up the project and making sense of the story and presenting it in an entertaining way. So like I said, I haven't really come across negative egos. Well, maybe one or two, but not many. And Aaron was great to get to know, and his work is amazing. And you know, he's as much a part of it as everybody else. So yeah, it's just a shame I didn't get to see him in the suit, because that would have been interesting.
in fairness, when we were chatting to him, saying to like, your guy didn't move too much. You weren't going to be very mobile. They're going to put you in a big chair and you're going to talk.
I would have fucking done it.
Yeah,
put me in a fucking chair, lock my head so I can just barely turn it, and that would be it. And it's cool, why not? I think it was more about the time and money issue. It was like, you know, the time it would take to set something like that. If you have time, I think it's always best to do it in situ in the volume. But I think the main issue was that there was so much dialogue for him to get through. The time that we had to shoot was pretty squeezed anyway. So if you could do it with him just doing the ADR VO as opposed to doing the full mocap shoot, it's better, because actually what you really need to focus on is huge set pieces and these very complicated scenes. So it doesn't make much sense. But obviously, if you have unlimited time and money, then you always do it in the volume, obviously.
Yeah. Dude, I'm glad to see he's a big old happy family now, and it's going
Yeah,
well.
man. Well, Jeff Shine, Nicole, and I, and Jeff's amazing. We and Steve, we'd have a mocap. They are my mocap family. I have other mocap families as well. I cheat.
What do you like?
It's not like that. But yeah, we have a very strong. We call ourselves a mocap family because we work together quite a few times now. Will Hope as well as another person I've collaborated with a few times. And there's some other actors as well, Cheryl Berniston, Ace Rael, who are amazing. I've worked with multiple times, Keziah Burrows. There's a long list. I'm going to forget people in a minute. But I also have I did a gig for Square Enix, which was amazing for 5 months, and there's a whole bunch of actors that are amazing in that, and we created our own little tribe from that. It's like there's a whole bunch of stuff going on that's wonderful, and when you meet these people, you want to keep working with them because it's fun and it's freeing. And mocap and performance capture are a little different from film and TV. You can take your face off and and put something else on. Obviously keeping within appropriate ethnic background casting, because I should not play African American. It's not right to do that, for instance, which is fair enough as well. But as long as you're within your particular group in terms of what you look like, I think that's completely legitimate to play anybody. Why not? I mean, the character actor can now play the leading man. The leading man actor can now be a character actor, for instance. I think it's really wonderful. And also now that games are really embracing diversity in a much better way than they had done, I think it's also good for representation, I feel. At least it's getting better. So it's more open. This is an interesting, again, it's like, for casting, there's a more open casting accessibility for actors now, which is also awesome to see that, because I'm a huge supporter of that as well. I mean, I direct now as well. I also produce. We just finished a production in Manchester, which I can't talk about. I'm about to direct something, can't talk about. But it's like we're pushing openness and inclusivity and diversity as much as we can. I think it's important, man. Yeah.
When you direct things, do you try like give yourself a cameo, or you kind of just do your bit?
It depends really. I often come on board as a performer consultant, and I have directed myself as well. I came on board but not as I tend not to try and. I tend not to cast myself. I usually get asked to do that, or I get hired as a performer, and then I come on board as like an action director as well, or something, or a stunt coordinator, which I also do. So it's a mixed bag, really. I would not try and cast myself in like a lead role in
give
that
yourself
way.
a cameo. Like George Lucas has played aliens in the background.
Oh yeah,
Quentin
sure.
Tarantino's been a guy having a coffee.
Yeah, but I usually, because it's performance capture and mocap, it's usually more utilitarian than that. It's not usually like a cameo for the cameo's sake, because nobody knows who the fuck you are when you've got an alien suit on in mocap, right?
I did know you meant that project was in mocap. I didn't know that project was in mocap.
Which one? Sorry.
I thought we were just talking about the Manchester one.
Oh yeah, sure. No, this one was a production service job. So my company handled the production side of it. We did the casting. We helped with the casting as well. But I don't need to be involved in that because I wasn't right for the character. So there's no reason for me to be involved in that. Likewise, if I'm directing, unless I'm asked by the games company or unless I'm being brought on as a performer consultant, I wouldn't try to actively put myself in a role unless it was asked for me from the top, saying, listen, we'd like you to do this. Like, cool, great, fantastic, I can do that as well. So I can do pretty much everything. I'm very lucky like that. I can direct myself. The next game I'm directing, for instance, I'm working as a co-director. So I'm co-directing with a game director, and he comes from the character-driven narrative side. He's also the writer, and he's also focusing performance. I'm focusing performance as well with him, but also I'm more on the performance capture side of things and making that all work as well together. So the two of us are very much aligned in tandem, for instance. Other jobs where I've directed singularly, if I can avoid putting myself in something, I will. But if it's a background role or 20 background roles that need filling, obviously, I can jump in the suit at any moment. I think the main thing is to avoid trying to do too much. So the production stuff we did in Manchester, which we hopefully will do again, I'm just a producer on that. So I'm not trying to get in the suit. I'm not trying to get there because quite frankly, there's enough on my plate. With Saletta Lasada, who's also the co-director of the company, there's enough on our plates to deal with that shit. So let alone try to be performing.
How busy are you actually? Like, what are you up to at the moment? Like, obviously not like
I
gaming.
haven't had. I think I had my first day off in about 4 months, 5 months.
Fuck.
I'm not kidding. I'm like literally a day without work, a day without doing anything. Was about 4 or 5 months without stopping. One point this summer, I had 12 projects simultaneously, which were literally overlapping like this. Like, so one would finish, another one would start, another one, and so on and so forth. Sometimes two in a day, like voiceover, and then doing
Yeah.
voiceover here and doing that. And then prepping for this for Manchester gig, prepping for directing gig, all that stuff just went bananas. And then on top of that, I was doing some sort of streaming and signings and crazy shit like that. And I have a company, and I'm a performer and a director, but I'm also a single dad, co-parenting single father. So it takes up obviously a huge amount of my time, because it should, because it's important to me to be a good dad. So time off, I don't really get time off in the same way that I think a lot of people do, but I'm happy like that. I'm a workaholic. I love my work. I'm grateful. I'm very, very grateful to everybody that's hired me, but also the opportunity to work and create is super important. So yeah, it's all right.
To get
Good problem to have.
psychological here, how come you take on so much at once?
Because I'm an all or nothing kind of person. Yeah. So I think I get lazy if I'm not active, and I worry about myself if I get lazy. So I'd rather be active and you know
Did you worry
working.
about that during COVID, that you might fall into a rut?
No, not really. I mean, I've been doing Baldur's Gate 3 now for coming up to 2 years now. I think it's just we just hit our 2 year mark. 2019 was when I started on it, and we're still going strong. Got a ways to go yet. And the
Love
good thing
games that
about
take
the
their time.
huh?
I love games that take their time.
I love fucking Larian. They're fucking amazing. Like Larian are one of the best game studios I've ever worked with. They're fucking
Mm.
incredible. I love the attitude. They seem to have a really cool vibe at work. People seem like genuinely to have fun. They're all like me, like fucking role play geeks. And every time they have a good idea, they try and implement it, as opposed to like cutting corners and shit.
Mm.
They just go back and go, right, it's going to take an extra month to do this, but we're going to do it anyway because the gamers deserve it. The game deserves it. I mean, also like the attitude that they didn't put a metaphorical like business gun to their head and tie themselves to a release date and said, here's early access, and here's all the things that's going to happen in early access, and like your saves are going to get wiped and this kind of the other, and they just fucking released it. But we want you to play it. We want you to get your feedback off it. I mean, if you take a good example, sadly, of Cyberpunk, which was a great disappointment, because I felt really sorry for everybody that worked on it, as well as the actors and stuff, but also the game developers, because investors forced them, I suspect, to stick to a date with so many problems, and they probably knew about the problems and they did it anyway, as opposed to releasing early access and saying it's not ready, but here you go, folks, you've waited long enough, and give us a year or so to get up to scratch. If they'd have done that, they would have saved the game, I think. But I mean, I enjoyed the game. It wasn't perfect. There was a lot of bugs, but it was an interesting experience. I think some of the voice work was great. The game is flawed, sure, technically, but it's a huge endeavor. Like a massive, massive amount of work went into that game. I just think it was sad that they got crucified for releasing earlier which they shouldn't have done. They should have just done early access, because that's a thing now, and people forgive.
When I talked to Shermie, the voice of female V, she said,
Oh, she's amazing.
Isn't she? She does
She's
so much
so
shit.
good.
Yeah.
She's so good. That's what I'm saying. Like, I feel bad for her, because it was like, she's fucking great, man.
No,
She's
she
really
does a
good.
really good job.
She does a
Yeah.
really good job. And like, that's the thing. It's like, sorry, I interrupted you, man. You go ahead.
Her point was that it had to be moved on to like old gen, so that was the reason why it went to shit.
Meh.
The investors wanted that to happen.
Meh. Yeah, but here's the thing. They could have done that anyway. Yeah, there's a
Well,
bullshit thing. They
takes a
wanted,
lot of time, doesn't it?
yeah, but my feeling is the investors wanted their money. I don't think it was about a gen thing, because here's the thing: like, you can ship it on all gens, and you can update it and patch it across the whole board. Nah, that doesn't. I don't buy that, because here's the other thing as well. They released footage that wasn't applicable to PS4, and there was no sort of like, this is not going to look like that moment. So nah, I don't buy that. I mean, I think the bottom line is, like, investors want their money.
So you think happened?
Yeah, I think it was as simple as that, really. I don't think it was
it's a pretty good way to look at things.
I think so, because it's a business, and that's okay. The main thing is, I'm not knocking Cyberpunk. I think it was great. I think it was a really great endeavor. And I think it's just a shame it wasn't quite given the time to be either. I think it's a shame it wasn't given early access, because it would have saved a lot of the issues, and people would totally forgive a lot of the issues that they didn't forgive at the time. Personally, I really enjoyed it. I had a great time playing it. I played it quite a lot. I just don't get to play games often. And, the voice work is amazing, and some of the art is extraordinary. And gameplay mechanics is really fun. I mean, there's some really cool shit in it. And the tragedy is I'm not entirely sure we're ever going to get to see a game like that for a long time, in terms of the aspiration and the presentation, all that kind of stuff. There's some really cool shit in that game. Do you know what I mean? So what I'm talking about is not about the craft, about the people's effort, because it was stellar. And I just think the business side, when business comes into it, sometimes it can make decisions that aren't fantastic for the sake of money.
Have you had to deal with that personally?
Well, like I was saying with Larian, they've taken the opposite view. And they obviously, it's a business and everything, but they just want to make it the best possible endeavor. And if it takes longer than people want it to take, it's going to take longer. And I think I really support that, because my point of view is like, what they're trying to do is just present it the best possible game they can. And if that means like delaying it and just releasing it when it's done when it's done, fair enough, I think. No, I think that's pretty cool. So I've never had to deal with it negatively. Here's the thing though, don't get it wrong. We don't make the game. We're the cherry on top of the game. All these hundreds of people, thousands of people sometimes go to making the game with hundreds and thousands of people hours. We come in, maybe we do a 2-week shoot, 3-week shoot, maybe 1 week prep, maybe we do voice work a couple of sessions, or maybe a year. That's our job done. We're like the cherry on top of the cake. Even if we do mocap and in-game mechanics, we're still not the animators and developers and the writers and the people who have poured so much of their life into this project. We have to respect that. We come into it respectfully, saying, what can we do to make it even better than you've already made it? So I think it's important I really appreciate the attention that we get, and I appreciate the attention that people have with my work and supportive. But honestly, the game is the game because of these people, not because of the actors. The actors just make it more immersive, perhaps, or create a sense of connection, which is very, very important. But we didn't make the game. So, read the credits of a game, because I don't know if people do or not. They read credits of film, right? You should read the credits of a game, man. You know what I mean?
I think a good way of getting people to read them is to do what Marvel does. Leave something at the end.
Fucking A. Yeah, fucking A. Or let them play the game
shit
beyond the credits. Force them to. I mean, I think it's fair enough. It's important though to honor that, to remember that, because I think sometimes, as much as I appreciate the attention and people interested in my work and stuff, I just hope that the developers and animators and everybody that goes into that game, directors, everybody, gets a fair shake of attention as well, because they're the ones that we all work together. I'm a small cog in a very, very big machine, and I'm just there to try and help the immersion, help you connect to the characters that you're playing and will experience, to make it even more of a great experience than just the gameplay itself.
It's a very key part of the game as well. Like, it can really make it or break it. Could you imagine Red Dead Redemption, the second one that came out recently?
I know.
But they use like 12-year-olds with their phones. That would sound pretty terrible. Like, there was guys that were so detailed in developing that game, they changed the way the horses' balls worked depending on the temperature.
Yeah, there was a lot of blood, sweat, and tears in that game.
Definitely.
And I mean, hats off to them. It's a hell of a game. It really is. I still haven't completed it because I just don't get enough time to play games. I got like about a quarter of the way into it or something great, and I still did a shit ton of stuff in it. I still obsessed with it, and I still want to be a cowboy. So I think it's like the amount of sweat, blood, and like sheer effort that went into it. It's amazing. Same thing with Cyberpunk. Amazing amount of effort went into that game. And that's the thing, even to produce a game that flops or whatever, or doesn't do as well as expected, is a huge amount of effort. Is years of people's lives. But on top of that, I mean, Christ, Red Dead has some incredible actors. Roger Clark is just fucking delicious.
Legendary, man.
I got to meet him in London. We had dinner together. I was with Troy Baker, Nolan North, I mean, it was like, talk about like, what the fuck?
You
I
got
was like,
like
I
some
was
of the
with
best names in the
Brian,
game.
Brian Deckard, Amelia Deckard, Amelia Rose Blair, sorry, and was with Troy Baker, Nolan North, and Roger Clark, and like a whole bunch of other people as well. And it was just like, what the fuck? Like just eating, going, what the this is insane, because they're just so talented, they're so good. And it's really nice, I think, to be surrounded by so many enthusiastic, talented actors and directors and writers and game developers and animators, you know, because it really just feels like you're part of something quite wonderful. We play heroes and doctors and villains and stuff. We are not doctors and heroes. We don't save people's lives. We entertain people, we're entertainers. So, you know, that also has to you have to take that into perspective as well. I feel that, you know, the nicest compliments I think I've ever heard, and that's from talking to friends as well, who've heard the same thing, that a game has really helped somebody through a difficult time. And that's like amazing to hear that. That's not down to me. That's not down to the actors. That's down to everybody together to create a great game that helps somebody just take a break from the stress of their life. But to be a small part of that, it's a really nice experience to hear that. You know, it's just great that we know that we pick somebody up when they're having a shitty day. You know, that's what entertainment is really. In one way. There's other things about art and entertainment and all that kind of stuff, obviously, but just in a small way to entertain somebody, to lift them up, is a wonderful privilege to have as a
Well,
human
dude,
being.
you do it for a lot of people, so fair play to you.
Oh,
Now,
thanks, man.
I know you're a busy guy and you gotta go soon. So
Sure.
my last question for you there, real quick, is what would be the difference in Resident Evil 8 when you're on set versus that of Detroit Become Human?
Um, Troy, we did a lot of work in a day, man. We did a 16-hour day. It was the last day I had there, which was amazing, which I loved. It was Brian and I just pretty much just playing and improvising our way through some of Adam Williams' beautifully, and obviously David's and Ben's beautiful written words and scenes. So it was glorious. I don't really make distinctions like that, to be honest, man. They were just different gigs, you know.
One was like kind of a horror game. One was a lot more serious and
Yeah, but you don't
human.
play as an actor. I don't play villains and I don't play horror or action. It's more like there is a tonality to each project and there is a kind of thematic nature to each project. And the characters I get presented are never, in my eyes, bad or you can't play amoral, you can't play immoral. You just have to play the wants, needs, and objectives of a character. The obstacles come through the script about why they can't get what they want, and their reactions to that are all the choices of the facets of the character, right? So fundamentally, you're just playing a fictional truth of a character that you love, no matter what other people think of them. So if somebody thinks my character's a villain, cool, that's the audience to decide that. I don't give a shit about that. It's nothing to do with me. I'm just playing a character and how they go about getting what they want or need. So in terms of also like playing the volume is the volume. It's a playground, and each role, each character is different. But the simple core premise of what it represents, that it's like theater and film together, it's playtime, it's imagination, like a 7-year-old. It's just all these wonderful things cooked together. It's the same process, and it's the same givens. It's just different stories and different characters. So for me, I don't really see a difference in one day or another, apart from the context of what we're doing in the day. But the volume itself remains constant. And that's what I love about it so much, is that I know how to blow my head apart in a good way and let my imagination just become the universe and expanse to every far corner of the volume. And that's the day. And like, let's get going. Let's fucking start. Because for me, it's like, it's theater in the round. It's like fucking close-ups and wides and masters and sustaining shots, and it's fucking everything. So yeah, I can't really compare the gigs. I loved working with Quantic Dream. Again, a whole bunch of people that just did so much to create such a great game, Detroit Become Human. I loved working on Planet of the Apes with Andy Serkis. You know, that was an amazing experience with Steve Kniebly directing that Last Frontier, which, you know, should have been released arguably as a TV miniseries, because that's what it was. It wasn't a game. It was mismarketed, I think. It's a TV series. It's not a game. But that was great fun to work on. Kingsglaive was great. I really enjoyed Final Fantasy. Working with Square was amazing. Worked with Capcom a whole bunch of times on different projects, some of which I can't talk about now either. Resident Evil 3 was great. It was like a film experience. So RE8 was like a film / I don't know, comedy show in some respects. Yeah. It was just like, each job is different, man. So they don't differ in terms of like the feel of what you're about to do. They're different, the cast, the characters, but like, I don't know, I don't really have like a favorite project, for instance.
You've spoken like a true actor. I've done over 200 interviews, a lot of which were actors, and I always ask, what was your favorite gig, that kind of thing. Never.
The question should be, do you have a bad gig, a gig that went south? Because that's if they want to talk about it. Oh, that's the other thing as well. You should never talk about it.
Yeah, you want to keep working in the industry.
Basically, shut the fuck up. Yeah. No, I mean, the truth is, I've never had a bad day in the volume in 11 years. Never. I've had really not great days on TV and film. I've had shit days. Well, that was a fucking shit show. But I've never had a bad day in the volume. I've definitely had a couple of challenging days where I thought, wow, that was a lot. But even they were like not negative experiences. They were really positive, actually. And it sounds corny, or but it's a truism that actors tend not to have favorite jobs because each role brings something different, and you put your heart and soul. I think some characters stay with you longer. That's true. I pick up habits from characters sometimes, and they sometimes stick around, unfortunately or fortunately, depending on your point of view.
You're a method actor, aren't you?
I am. My background's method, but I also studied Meisner, Laban, Yat Malgram's work. I've just been using Yat's work for a new character, actually. I studied quite a lot of different things: animal work, movement stuff, voice work. So I don't know if I call myself completely a method actor, but I definitely studied method for 4 years. I started as a method actor in that way of like really applying that to a lot of the work I did. I used lots of other tools as well. I don't just limit myself, but I like to really immerse myself in the character whilst I'm doing it. Yeah, that's for sure. But there's also an off switch, man. You go home at night after finishing shooting. You don't want to be taking that character home. You carry them on your back with you. But they're on your back. Then you're not in you. Do you know what I mean? That's the trick. Like you have to push them out, and just they're there for the whole duration of the shoot, and they might linger a bit longer. But they can't be in you when you step through the front door of your own home. You can't do that, because the problem with that is it becomes very destructive, I think. And then I think one's ego sometimes might get the better of ourselves, and we might be like sort of indulging ourselves with the thing, as opposed to still focusing on what the thing is, what the story is, and the character is. I think when you're working, stay in character. Fuck it, why not? That's brilliant. I think it's great. I mean, why the hell not? Stay in character the whole fucking day. Eat lunch as a character if it helps you. Yeah, for sure. Just take a pinch of salt. You might fuck somebody off if you are sticking too true to the character and you have no leeway, because you might fuck somebody off. If you're playing the Joker, for instance, is a good example, I guess.
Well, Jared Leto did that weird shit when he played the Joker.
Because it was for him. It wasn't for them. It wasn't for them at all. It was purely for him. I understand it. I think, did it go too far? I don't know. I don't think he cared about the other people's point of view, really, I guess. I don't know the guy. So, but I think I'd be mindful of like not trying to destroy somebody else's work to satisfy my own need to create something to help me. I definitely would create a lot of systems to help me, that's for sure. And if I needed space from people to indulge in that to help me sustain, absolutely, I'll take that. But I'll probably ask them, or at least as long as I'm aware that they're aware, then that's fine. But I often stay in character voice, usually mannerisms, walks, the physicality of the person I might keep the whole time. Planet of the Apes, I used to do a thing, a basic relaxation exercise where I used to do hoots and hollers and woots and shit like that. And just scream a wah. And I did that every single time before a take, like every single time before a take. Like, I'm not even kidding.
When you're into it, I guess.
Yeah, but it helped. It like literally released all the nervous energy I might be carrying around at that moment, and it got me into character. I drop into.
That's pretty convincing.
You got into the character and the breath of the character. Yeah. It was just a relaxation tool to get me into. Heisenberg, well, Astarion, who I'm playing at the moment, Baldur's Gate 3, who's such a delicious character, man. I'm being blessed.
It's a weird way to describe someone. Delicious.
He's delicious.
You used it twice.
No, he's delicious. Yeah, there are some delicious people in the world. He's particularly delicious.
Who else do you reckon is delicious?
William Hope is a delicious actor. He's yummy. Right. Bill Hope is great because you just fucking love him, man. You can't not love Bill Hope.
Yeah.
He's great.
So,
He's also seriously fucking talented as well, man. So there's that.
yeah.
Yeah. But Astarion is an interesting one because hello, my name's Astarion is literally a basic relaxation tool, which I think people know about now anyway, because I use it often in public. So Astarion, you know, I found a way of that shorthand. Like some characters I won't ever discuss my process with, and I won't discuss much about Astarion's process anyway until you've done and finished the job. Because I find that if you start talking about your shit, about how your craft, it stops working. Whereas with the hello, my name's Astarion, it just sort of drops me into the voice, drops me into the sort of upward movement from, you know, the bottom of the vertebrae of the neck upwards, because he's always looking down on you, you know. Hello, my name's Astarion. It's not you, darling. It's me. I have standards. You know, it's like that. It's sort of there's a.
You kind of sound like the Vision.
Somebody else said that. I did not model it on anybody. In fact, I modeled it on my acting teacher, actually. Just little bits and pieces. There's also there is an actor I did model it on, actually, who I'm not going to talk about until I finish the story. Yeah. But there's one very definite actor who is like this incredible fucking powerhouse when he performed a certain role, and it was just, there was something about this actor that is just like wow. And I really modeled quite a lot on him with a prompt actually from one of the directors, who actually gave me a great source of inspiration very early on when we first started R&Ding the character. And I took his advice and I checked him out. I was like, yeah, I know. Because A, I knew who the actor was, but B, I'd forgotten about the actor. So when I saw the actor, I was like, fuck, it's brilliant. And it completely unlocked his sort of this certain physicality and mannerism to Astarion. So
I kind of think I know who, but I think if I said it,
I don't know if you do actually. It's probably not what you think.
Probably not.
Probably not. No, it's really probably not, because I don't think anybody's going to guess it. Yeah.
Fair enough. Well, look, you gave me half an hour, and
I
we went
gave
for
you
40
slightly
minutes.
more than that. Yeah.
So
I had a pack.
You know,
I got to get on. I'm doing a job like next 10 days. So I got to go.
I really appreciate the extra time you gave me.
That's okay, man. That's all right. You know, I mean, listen. You know, I'm very lucky and blessed to be working with so many people, to be in such a cool industry, to have people like my work, which is a bonus. And also I get to pay it back now. I get to have an academy that teaches courses to like stunt performers, dancers, puppeteers, actors, whomever, developers, animators, directors, whatever. I have a production company now we start working with. So this Performance Captured Academy, Performance Captured Productions. People ask my opinion about shit, because apparently I have an opinion about shit now. And I get to work a lot. And, you know, to be able to say that as an actor who at one point was really finding the work I was getting in TV and film very hard to enjoy, because some of it I felt like wasn't really allowing me to be a character actor and really follow my craft work. Whereas games just went, do whatever you want, man. You know, if you work hard, then we want you. That was amazing. And Audio Motion, Brian Mitchell particularly, Audio Motion started my career with Stacey Boisel, who's not in that in Audio Motion anymore. She left a while ago. But Brian Mitchell and Audio Motion started my career. He is the reason that I got into Mocap. And Stacey, you know, saw me as well at casting, and that's why I do it. And I got into games and VO stuff. I was an actor beforehand for like 22 years, obviously in total, maybe more actually, I lost count. But I got into games because some people took a chance on me and really offered me up the ability to play any role, which was just wild. So I've got a lot to be grateful for, and I do appreciate everybody that takes an interest in my work. And you know, if any actors out there, they're more than welcome to contact my my company, and we'll try and give them advice, or at least like point them in the right direction of how to start in games, or what they could do to help themselves, I guess, to get involved in games.
Well, you're doing all things right so far, I reckon.
Thanks,
and
man.
Again, man, it was a fucking good conversation. I enjoyed it.
Felt like a monologue from my point of view, but I hope I didn't talk over you too much. I do have a habit of that.
No, like, dude, if I said, "Did you enjoy doing the gig?" and you said, "Yeah," and I said,
"Yeah,"
what about it? All of it. It'd be a short interview.
That's great. That's all right.
Yeah, yeah. So anyway, yeah.
Yeah, cool, man. All right.
All right. So if people want to check out Neil, where can they find you?
So like all of my socials are Neil Newbon. TikTok, which I never use, but I have one, and people follow, which is nuts in itself. But like Instagram, Twitter, that kind of stuff. I have a Twitch channel as well, Neil Newbon. to like talk about my work and also to interview other actors and people like that as well, which is kind of fun. I'm not a professional streamer. I just do it for kicks and to see my friends. I have a YouTube, which I think is, I don't know, official Neil Newbon or something like that. My academy is at performancecapturedacademy.com. My production company, if you want to check that shit out, is performancecapturedproductions.com. And yeah, I'm just around the internet, I guess. So,
You got anything you want to hint at? You got any guests coming up soon?
no, I've got a whole bunch of projects there, man. We've got like about, I don't know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, well, at least about 10 projects coming up. No, not most of which people don't know about yet. So
Well,
there's something coming out, I think this year or beginning of next. BG3 is whenever, I don't know, end of next year is the aim, but maybe beyond that. That's what Sven said. And, you know, as far as I'm concerned, it can carry on for a few more years because I'm really enjoying playing Astari. I want it to be out anytime soon. There's an animated film I did action directing for that's at like some point. I'm directing this game now, which I'll talk about when I can talk about. There's a very big project with Square, which is coming out. There's some other information, news and stuff about stuff I can't talk about either. There's a lot of fucking NDAs, but there's a lot.
I hate them.
So,
I hate them. You could build so much hype without NDAs. But
no, I mean,
whatever.
dude, I think the point is, it's like, you know, they don't want to ruin their chances of selling the game.
I know.
So
I completely understand. But
yeah, I respect NDAs. I respect all the people that I work with.
from my point of view, interviewing like people and they can't say what they're doing, you get the like.
You just gotta get creative, mate.
Yeah.
You just gotta be creative around what you can talk about. You know.
That's it. So if people want to check you out, they know where to find you. And
Yep.
if you got this far in the video or in the audio version, fair play to you. Take it handy and bye bye.